You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Ladies and gents, this is Kevin Kierstead, host of Truth on Tap and Caps on Tap. I hope you're enjoying the show. Truth on Tap is focused on bringing you absolute truth about everything from mainstream media to comedy, from psychology to the paranormal. This show keeps it real, not the fake kind of real, the real kind of real. That same spirit also covers our Caps on Tap show about the Washington Capitals. Caps on Tap shows air only after Capitals wins at this time. Please come like our Facebook page and join the conversation at facebook.com/Truth on Tap show. Truth on Tap has been picked up and promoted by iHeartRadio, the internet audio mega monster, so shows are available there as well as on Spreaker and a limited selection on iTunes. To get in on a show's chat, you can chat from the Facebook page I mentioned or go to www.spreaker.com/user/truth-on-tap and look for the live episode or call in at 910-NOLYING. That's 910-665-9464. Thanks again for checking out Truth on Tap and Caps on Tap.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Opening up the truth pipeline for these bitches.
Truth on Tap. Truth.
My right to say how I say it's mine to give. My rank, my heart, it's mine to share. My songs, my heart.
Truth on Tap.
Invite to use. Just the wish to use. Chop it up and move to buy. Chop it up and move to
Truth
buy.
on Tap.
8/9/2014, 11:30, Papa Mama. Georgia Linus, DJ Arcade, Pulse Georgia Linus remix. That's what's going to open us up. It has a bit of a jungle feel to it, and I think you're an animal. Yeah, I do. I think most of you guys already knew that. If you're new to the show, get ready for some unrefined truths. What we do here is talk about sometimes the truths that others won't talk about. Partly because how are you going to be a unique show if you're just saying the same shit somebody else is? That's number one. But number two, I want to know why we're ignoring these truths. In some cases, sure, it's psychological pain. I don't want to talk about a molestation experience because it brings back a lot of pain. I don't want to talk about how I thought about punching my boss yesterday because it might make me look crazy. I don't want to talk about how I hope my neighbor chokes and dies because his house looks better than mine. I can't tell anybody that. They think I was a bad person. Are you? You've had those thoughts. You've had thoughts like that. So, if everybody's had thoughts like that, make the occasional exception for a Mother Teresa or, like a Pat Sajak. You get weird ones that never think like that. If just about everybody's had those thoughts, is everybody bad? Are you going to make me define normal all over again for you? I don't feel like doing that. So I say, if you're having some of these thoughts that you're really ashamed of or otherwise don't want to talk about, maybe you shouldn't think of yourself as so abnormal. Because I'm willing to bet you that just about everybody around you has similar thoughts. Absolutely. Not fun to talk about, not comfortable to talk about. Now, one thing I will not do on this show, even to get you truth, is to be a Debbie Downer. Okay, if I just talk about painful memories that you refuse to bring up, that you insist upon repressing, well then what good is that going to do anybody? It might lead to some understanding, but it's depressing as shit. And on a Saturday night, I'm not going out like that. But I will touch on some of those things that you've been thinking, that you think nobody else knows about. Well, some of us do. Some of us understand the broken manimal. And I'll tell you something, you're getting a show by candlelight tonight. I'm going to explain to you how that happens with nothing but a blown light bulb. Georgia Linus,
You're listening
DJ
to Truth on
Arcade.
Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Next comes Genghis featuring Stereo Blackstar, Super Negro. Yeah, I love this. I love this and I love to hate it. You know the story. You know the scoop, man. I'm tempted to scratch when this comes on. Let me see if I got a scratch panel up here. Let me get into this.
It's fun.
What? I said, what? Yeah! Boy, he's in his house. Yeah, something like that. I just make shit up. A little bit of funkiness. I had to throw that in there. You know something? Don't live your life like a goddamn square. I think that if you were to take our generation, I'm 42, some of you are younger, some are older, a lot of you are around my age, and you put us on our deathbed, say our lives are fairly prolonged due to early immunizations and healthier foods, whatnot, better hospitals, better doctors, which I think is unlikely, but it's possible. So we're sitting on our deathbeds around 105 years old, and I know I won't live that long, but let's just say we are, for the sake of argument. And we start talking to each other, and we say, what do you wish you'd done differently? Well, they've done surveys with people on their deathbed. Seems like kind of a strange time to interview them, but hell, they were willing to talk. A lot of them wish they had loved more, spent more time with their family instead of working so much. That was a big one. A lot of them wish they had finished the things on their bucket list. Fuck a bucket list. I don't see the point of that. I want to do this before I die. Why? Because you're going to carry it with you? I don't think so. Even if your spirit moves on, I don't think you're taking mountain climbing with you. Honestly, don't. So, bucket list is dumb. If you're going to do something, do it because you're enjoying it while you're alive, not because you need to get it done before you die so that somewhere in your family records it'll say you did it. That's ridiculous. If you're going to do that, go to Mars. Make that trip matter. We're going to stop the music after this one. Yes, we are. Even though Alex is sitting there looking really tight with Purple Nurple, which gets me fired up too. And then Eno with 2 songs after that. Yeah, we'll get to those. We'll get to them. How about you guys out there that are of breeding age? Do you wish you had a different girl every night? I'll bet there's a part of your mind that does. Yeah. You wish you'd just give you what you want? No games. No gimmicks. No need to be romantic. You just bend over. Yeah. Don't act like you haven't thought about that, because you have. That's the animal inside of you. And we'll talk about him too.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
I was reading something earlier, and I do have a few websites up for the purposes of this show. And it was talking about tact. And I think I'm going to read these things. Let me go ahead and give you a reference. Now, I've already posted this reference on the announcement on the Facebook page for this show, which is facebook.com/truthontapshow. If you go there, you'll see that this show accidentally was announced twice. I deleted one, so the current announcement is up. And it says, let me read it. It says, the show, come and listen live on Spreaker, truths nobody wants to talk about. Okay? In there, I've already posted a link. And it's called 8 Things Wrong About You That People Are Too Afraid to Tell You. It uses something called the Johari window. Have you heard about this one? It's actually pretty interesting. I'm not going to worry so much about teaching you the window. It's something you need to look at, but once you do, it'll make a lot of sense. And basically what it is everything in your head about you is either known to yourself but not to others, known to yourself but not to others because it's hidden, known to yourself but not to others because of a facade, or known to others but not known to self because it's a blind spot, or unknown to others and unknown to yourself but still true about you because it's just an unknown. These are categories of what you really are and what you think you are as defined by others. And they're categories of analysis, not of personality. Basically, they define perspectives, okay? And really, with humans, perspective is everything, because without perspective, you can't get information. It has to come through somebody. Even through you, it has perspective applied. So you're going to get perspective with any information. The question is, how much credibility do you want to lend to that perspective? And then thereby, how much credibility are you going to lend to the data collected through that perspective? We're going to talk a little bit about those 8 things. Now, these 8 things were just kind of picked. I mean, there's nothing special about them. They were just kind of picked by this author, and I think they're interesting. And I think these are things that people will not tell you about yourself. So it could be a problem for you. It could be. It's something to look over, because I can just about promise you that if any of these 8 things are wrong with you, unless they're a really, really confrontational type of person or drunk, take your pick, they probably have not addressed these issues with you. All right? Very interesting stuff here. This was written by Mark on April 12, 2013, and it was written for the website, which I've already listed, called Enlight 8, simple self-help put to practice, create success habits, find wisdom that nourishes your soul. You got to know the bad to value the good, I think. So here's some of the bad. We're going to skip the Johari window. I would like you to look that up and get to know what it is. You can actually use this for the rest of your life once you spend 5 minutes with it. Number 1, you're negative. Now, first off, those of you that know me know that my sister and I, one of my sisters, I have 4, made a pact about 4.5 years ago that we were going to kick all the negative people out of our lives. Push them out. Nudge them out. And I know the first thing you think is, wait a minute, Kevin, if you have a family member or friend that's having a bad time, they might be negative. You're going to just kick them out? No. Even a friend can have a bad month. I'll give them a bad few months. But negative, we're defining as people that live to put down other people, places, and things. Bitch, 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 bitch. That's what they love to do. If you're around a person like that, I would bet my life that you're never going to attain real happiness. There's no solution to that. Allow me to save you a lot of work. You're going to have to get them out. If you want a shot at real happiness, you can be nice about it. You can send out a note to all your friends. Hey, everybody, starting September 1st, I am going to be trying to make a change in my life. Life is not easy, as we all know, and I've decided that hanging around people that tend to talk about negative things is making it harder for me to find happiness. So I'm going to start avoiding those people who I see as people who talk about negative things a lot. This is no offense to you. I'm not any better than you. I just need less challenge between me and happiness. And that's what I'm going to do. That gives them time to think about whether or not they want to be negative around you. And you can tell them, I don't need you to be Mary Poppins. I'm just looking for neutral or positive. Anything but negative. And you need to do this. Now, this is the problem. Now, I am one of the few people, because of that pact I made with my sister, I may not even tell you, but I probably will. In a very friendly way, I'm sorry I don't do negative, which means you're being negative. Life's too hard already. I just don't want to hear it. So, number 1, you're negative. Have you ever, and I'm quoting now, Have you ever noticed that if someone tells you something, whether about themselves or someone else, you respond with a sarcastic comment or say something negative? This adverse type of reaction could be due to the fact that you are a pessimist, and maybe for a multitude of reasons, including insecurity, jealousy, envy, etc. If you find yourself being a pessimist, always thinking the glass is half empty, try to stop and think about why you're always being negative. If you understand the reason behind your negativity, you may be able to counter it before you drive friends and family away, because nobody wants to be around a pessimist all the time. The fuck men, I say. So there's your warning. If you're losing friends or having trouble making them, that's the first thing you want to check. Are you always bitching about something? Look, life's hard. I'm not questioning it. Your life may be harder than mine. I'm not questioning that. The question is, how much time in conversation do you spend focusing on the negative? If it's a lot, don't come bitching to me that you don't have any friends. Don't come bitching to me that your spouse is miserable. You're making yourself and those around you miserable. I know you can't ignore all of the negative things, but you can choose whether or not they're going to be in your daily topics of conversation. That is your choice. Make the change. Make the change. Make the change and you won't drive people away. Number 2 is you don't listen. This is something else. Who's in chat here? Kim's in chat. Boom shakalaka. Most wish they had a little longer. Checking it out right now. Humor. What's up, Kim? Thanks for coming to chat. I didn't know if you'd be in here. Are you still going, you know where, to do you know what tonight? Curious about that. Got to keep a secret from my radio people there. Sorry about that. I don't like to do that. But at least I didn't lie to you, so that's important. We're talking a little bit about these truths that are uncomfortable, the truths nobody wants to talk about. You've thought about punching your boss in the face. Don't lie. You might say, no, I haven't. What about your last job? Oh, yeah, that one time I did think like that. Or I imagined somebody else doing it. Or I imagined him punching me in the face. Or I imagined stealing his wallet one day just to see if I could fuck his life up and steal his identity. You've thought of some complex, harmful shit that you're not going to tell anybody about. Maybe you worked in a restaurant and you pissed in the salad. Now, this is something, in my experience, that the male is more likely to do than the female. There is a certain amount of maturity with females on average that you don't get with males, and there is a certain amount of control over anger that you don't get with males. Males need to react instantly and physically. Women can plot against your ass for 10 years to get their revenge, so they're careful with it. So yeah, you're not typically going to see a female, taking a shit in the shake machine. I'm sorry. And I think that's good. I wish there were all women restaurants. I'd go there, knowing that the chances of me getting the wrong kind of curly shake were lower than if I were at a mixed sex or all male restaurant. These things matter. These things you got to know. You got to know your odds when you go into a situation. I'm not a paranoid person. I've never looked at my meal and said, I wonder if the chef stuck his dick in my peas. I've never done that. But he could have. He could have. You don't know. And it's worth thinking about, because I can guarantee you that about every chef or cook or fry chef out there that's ever worked in a place like that has at least considered it when someone pissed them off. These are the things nobody wants to talk about. These are the things that the chef will not admit, but he's thought them. He has thought them. Know your humans, people. Know your humans. Know what they're thinking. A lot of things we think we don't act on, and that's okay. That's what the difference between you being free right now and you being in a jail is how much you're able to act like a man and how much you insist on acting like an animal. We put our animals in cages, you know this. And that's where you'll go if you can't act like a civilized human. Now, I think the animal gets a bad rap. I think we have set the bar way too high on human behavior. That's why the jails are so full. We are animals. With this, we like to believe we've got this huge crown on our head that says we are man. We can reason, and because we can reason, we know the difference between wrong and right. We know the difference between love and hate. We know the difference between contribution and sabotage. And we know the difference between hinder and help. And because we know those things, we can put into place a compendium of laws and regulations under which we will live by, and if we choose not to on any given day for any given reason, we will pay a legal penalty for it. If we decide for any reason that we're going to become the animal for a moment, we may go to our cage for that. That's what we've done. That's what we've done to ourselves. Is it cool with you? Is it have we overshot where we are with our laws and policies? I think we may have overestimated our capacity. Honestly do. I think maybe we should lower the bar some. Now, it's not going to sound right if you go and say, okay, we'll let people take bribes up to $5,000 if they're officials in the NBA. But over $5,000, you're going to jail. That's not going to work. You know, we can't move backwards like that. But maybe we should look at sentencing. You know, maybe we should look at prevention. Things along those lines. I mean, we've set these difficult laws in place, and now, when you compare them to human nature and how weak the human mind is, now you got to live by them or pay a price. And I don't know. So the guy, the NBA ref that took a $10,000 bribe, you say, oh, he's dirty as shit. But what do you think when you hear that his kid was going to die of cancer if he didn't have money for the next 3 radiation treatments, which were going to cost $7,000 cash because his policy had already paid all it would pay for the kid? Now you think, oh, in that case, okay. But you don't know. On all these cases, how many times have you seen somebody pull up to the jailhouse in a police car who has only been accused of child molestation? Accused. And you see signs out there that say, you fucking child raper, I'm going to chop your head off. Innocent until proven guilty. The presumption of innocence is a farce. In this country, we presume guilt when we hear the first rumor. That's part of the broken manimal, at least in America. When the country becomes the country I want it to be, we will presume innocence because the law makes mistakes, and prosecutors across this great country are looking to get wins, and they'll pin just about anything on anybody if they can get somebody locked up for it, because that goes in the victory column. Watch that shit. Presume innocence. Do it the way the Constitution has advised, and that makes you more of an American in my eyes. Kim says, we used to have full mental health facilities. Now we have full cells and no mental health facilities. I know in a lot of the prisons they're incorporating mental health, but they're doing it all wrong. They need to be doing it from a medical standpoint, and they're doing it from a rehabilitation standpoint. There are 2 separate parts of the mind, in my view, that engage in criminal activity versus adjustment to society. While they may be kissing cousins, they're not identical twins. So you can adjust to society and still insist on your criminal lifestyle. So you can't just do rehab there. You got to treat them medically. What's wrong with them? Give me a DSM diagnosis. Make that approved by 2 doctors who have reviewed it, and then decide on a standard treatment plan that fits that diagnosis. Work the medical problem. Don't worry about the social rehab right now. They're already in jail. Work the medical problem. Fix the medical problem. Then you can start worrying about social after that, because you can work on social all day. If the root of the medical problem is still there, you will fix nothing. Nothing. It's like being in a race car that's got a half-blown engine and you change the tires. Well, it's getting great traction. You knew it would. But it doesn't even make it 1 lap around before it's back in the pit stop. What happened? You didn't go for the big problem. You went for the small problem. For many, there is no fix. I think that's true, Kim, but it's only because of our lack of knowledge. I think we will get there to where anybody can be treated. First, we need to decide, do we call something a mental disorder, or do we call it simply uncivilized or animalistic behavior? Whatever it is, once we've decided as a society in any given country, this must be a mental condition. This isn't normal. This needs treatment. Then we have to agree then, really, which we don't. We leave this to the medical world and we don't ask questions. We need to agree on a set of standards for treatment. You don't want a psychopath turned loose after 3 years of counseling to come and live in your neighborhood. Remember, only sex offenders and those who have committed malicious violent crimes are registered, okay? So you can have a psychopath living right beside you, working a regular 40-hour-a-week job, watching you, planning on kidnapping your daughter or son, taking them to a field, raping them, killing them, and burying them. And they'll talk to you like they're your best friend, because that's what psychopaths do. I encourage you, since we're talking about things nobody wants to talk about, truths people don't want to talk about, look up the new methods of identifying psychopaths. Very exciting stuff. The first telltale sign, and this is my experience in psychiatry, it's one of the first things I learned, and I fully believe it. I've seen no evidence to counter this. You tell me if you have. One of the first signs of a psychopath is that they lack empathy. But be careful, because they know how to mimic. And they know what people look like when they display empathy. And they can mimic that because they know that's normal. Just because they're not feeling empathy doesn't mean they can't display it. So you have to be the Sherlock Holmes when you're interacting with someone that you think may be a psychopath. And you have to decide, did that sound authentic? I just told them that yesterday I fell down the stairs and landed on the bottom banister with my crotch. And after about a 3-second delay, he made a face as if he were feeling pain and said, "I'm really sorry you went through that." Well, why the delay? Have you ever seen in a movie theater when a guy gets kicked in the balls? How much delay is there before you hear the groan from the crowd? That's empathy. That's being able to say, "I feel your pain, fellow human." A psychopath cannot do that. Because in the mind of a psychopath, there is only me. I matter. I matter. And I want you to look up some of the new ways that they're able to identify psychopaths. You'll be surprised. They've got these new conversational tricks where you can identify psychopaths. Now, keep in mind that for a formal is the key word here, diagnosis, I respect the field of psychology, and I respect them fully. I think they've come a long, long way since they stepped out of philosophy and went into medicine. Well, a couple roadblocks in there, like Sigmund Freud, who was a fucking weirdo, who should have stayed an MD. The steps they've made have been positive in nature, have been along the lines of experimentation to figure out how the mind works, and then how to treat what we go ahead and decide as a society as a broken mind. And you know, I'm not so sure it's broken. What it is it doesn't live up to our standards. We have a set of standards that we come up with. And we're calling it broken. We're calling them crazy. We're calling them lunatics, mentally disabled, paranoid schizophrenic, bipolar. We're calling them all this if they don't live up to our standards that we've set. In another country, they may be labeled fine. In another time period, they might be labeled okay. But not today. Not here. Today and here, they're a paranoid schizophrenic. And they've got to be medicated and institutionalized because they're a risk to society. Something to keep in mind. The time and the place matters as to what your mental conditions are. Yep. You're just as likely to find a psychopath in a upper management position as you are in a jail cell. Typical characteristics of psychopaths is they're very charming. They will not get into deep discussions with you. They keep it topical. One of the new things they're finding is that they like to talk about things like basic needs: food, shelter, water. This is something they've discovered by talking to people in jail that were diagnosed as psychopaths. They also like to talk about people who have wronged them, and that those people deserved the punishment that this psychopath dished out. They like to talk about that. They believe there was some form of justice served there by removing that person's skin and frying it and then making a jacket out of it. They know how to mimic. And when you know how to mimic, you've seen movies about this kind of stuff where the robots try to act like the humans. You've got to have a keen eye to be able to see through this facade and spot a psychopath. But the way to do it is you spend more than 10 or 15 hours around them. I don't care if it's at work or social gatherings or whatever. You're going to spot something. If you're aware, you're going to spot something that seems robotic in nature. Some sort of missing hole of empathy or understanding of human conditions. And that's when you can start piecing things together. Once again, you need a real psychiatrist that is MD, or at least PsyD behind his name, with a great deal of experience to be able to technically label somebody a psychopath. Okay? However, you can decide who are going to be your friends, neighbors, and coworkers if you have a sneaking suspicion based on the most current evidence out there on how to identify a psychopath. You can make some informed decisions. Just keep in mind, you can't be sure until you've done the 8 years of school and the 3 years of clinical trials and the 5 years of mentoring. You don't know. You might think somebody's crazy. They may even be some form of mentally disabled, but maybe not a psychopath. The question is, how can you identify someone who is a potential risk to your health and happiness and that of your family? There are ways now. There are more convincing ways than ever before. More ways to check your work than ever before. Because they may do this and this, which lines up with a psychopath, but then they may do that, which completely eliminates them from the potential for being a psychopath. These are things you got to be able to recognize. Every child is stamped and labeled by the time they leave primary school. They get DX of being a predator or a child predator. I don't know what that means, Kevin. Can you explain that to me? I'll wait for Kim to explain that. I don't understand what that means. So I'll wait for her to explain that, and we're going to go on to the next thing. We were talking about 8 things people will not tell you about yourself that they may not like about you. You're too negative. Number 2 was you don't listen. Do you cut people off a lot? Let me tell you something, man. I'm a good listener. I always have been. Ask any of my friends if I cut them off when we're talking. Now, on the show, I might once in a while because, first of all, I have to. If you have a radio show, you have to maintain control of your show. Number 2, there's a delay. So I'm not sure when guy A or guy B is really done talking. He may say a sentence like this, and I thought he was done. But now he's adding this. So right about the time he's saying, but now, I've just started talking. And I've talked over him. That's the problem with the delay in radio. You can't even look at body language. However, in normal conversation, I will not interrupt you. And I would like it in return. Because when you interrupt somebody, let me tell you the very clean and clear signal that you're sending to them. It's very simple. You're saying, listen, human, I know you were in the middle of saying something just now. But what I have to say is more important than what you have to say. The only exceptions to that are if you can't get a word in edgewise and you've got to bust through, or in the event that you have to control something like, when I was teaching, I would let people talk, but sometimes they'd get going 10, 15 minutes. Nope. Got to get back to teaching the class, because now people that have paid for their education are listening to you talk about your dog, and I'm thinking they're not thinking that's what they paid for. So now I feel responsible. So yeah, at some point I had to cut them off. But in normal conversations, I do not interrupt. I find that highly offensive. Don't interrupt people, especially if they're not hogging all the talk time. Especially if they don't talk often. Listen to everything they say and then wait a second or two before you even respond. It does two things. First, it lets them know that you were listening to them. And two, it doesn't make them think you were just waiting your turn to talk. Listen to people. It's very respectful. People feel it. Think about how you feel when you're interrupted, or when you know someone's not hearing you when you talk. Very, very bad stuff. And no, they won't tell you. They'll just be done with you. So watch it. Make sure you listen to people. Number 3, you talk too much about yourself. That's a big one. That's a big one. I told you that, I think it was it Eleanor Roosevelt that said, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. Well, you're a people. Now, when I talk about myself, I am completely bored with myself, folks. I don't care about me. I'm looking outward. I want to know what's going on with all those people out there. I want to know what's going on with that science out there. I'm not a me person. Me, I. But I will use me as a pincushion, if you will, to stab into things, because sometimes I'm the only reference I have. But listen to this show. If you were to count up all the times I said I, me, or my, you would come up with comparatively few examples of that compared to other shows. I'm interested in you. I'm interested in them. I'm interested in that. Well, there's an I, but still, you're not hearing that. You're hearing, we're talking today about so-and-so's idea. That's what you're hearing. So if you talk too much about yourself, people are not going to tell you this, but they're going to be turned off by it. They're going to believe that you're entirely too into yourself, that you're the Floyd Mayweather of the social circle. Number 4, you have an attitude problem. People typically aren't going to tell you this either. Listen to this one. If people have a problem with you but don't necessarily approach you, it could be due to the fact that you may adversely react because you have an attitude problem. When you show people attitude, it is a turn-off and can make talking to you extremely difficult. Nobody wants to be around someone who is constantly showing them attitude. So in order for you to avoid conflicts or losing friends, an attitude adjustment is necessary. Be approachable, and if someone has some constructive criticism for you, don't react adversely. Take it in stride. I would disagree with that. It depends. If this person is a mentor and their criticism would have been welcome normally, sure, take it in stride and be appreciative. Otherwise, when people are criticizing you, my first question is, okay, what put you in a position of authority over me on this topic? What gave you the qualification that suddenly gave you the right to educate me about something I'm doing wrong? Have you mastered it in some way? Do you have a formal education in it in some way? Or are you just picking apart my flaws? Because if we're going to pick apart flaws, let's go look in the mirror. I think there's probably plenty to keep you busy there, so maybe you shouldn't be picking mine apart. I don't pick apart people's flaws. That's easy to do. Dale Carnegie said it's the easiest business to set up, and fault finding. Takes no investment, no capital. You can start prospering right away. I'm so sick of hearing people bitch about everything. I'm so sick of hearing people bitch about welfare and immigration and foreign policy, and they have no solution to propose. Nothing. So you want me to believe that you care that things aren't going well when you haven't even taken a few minutes per topic to try to figure out what you might do to change it. That's how you can tell if someone really gives a shit or if they just like bitching. Show me your evidence that something else would work better. What have you thought about? 9 times out of 10, probably more than that, probably 9.5 times out of 10, you're going to get, I don't know, it just ain't working like this. You know, it irks me. People that try to come up with solutions, I'm down with that. I don't care how crazy it sounds. That means you're thinking for the betterment of America or the world, and I can appreciate it. You know, if you toss out term limits, you might toss out welfare to work programs, you might toss out immigration and visa reform that has to do with work visas for 2 years that turn into permanent visas if there's no crime. You might have all those ideas, and they're all going to sound good to me because you're thinking for solutions, not just bitching about the problem. We've got plenty of that. We can listen to Fox or MSNBC if we just want to hear people bitching about the problems. We sure can. How about solutions? Number 5, you're too dramatic. People aren't going to tell you this, but they're going to avoid you. If you've always got drama in your life, don't be surprised if nobody wants to be around you. Listen, I'm 42 now. And when I was 30 or so, I still had some capacity for drama. I'm going to tell you a little secret. This is a little psychology secret that I hand out these secrets ever so often because I understand the addiction personality, and I'll explain that to you very briefly. All the studies they've ever done that lead to understanding gambling behaviors, they figured out that the occasional winner on an unpredictable schedule is the one who gets hooked. If somebody plays slots and they know that every 10th time they play slots they're going to win $2, they're going to be very bored with that. But if they think that maybe every 10,000th time they'll win $2,500, but that they could actually win $5,000 3 spins after that, that hooks them. That totally hooks them. Okay, so I want you to think about that for a second, and I want to tell you a way that I'm trying to hook you. I'm dropping you some of these fantastic psychology tricks and understandings just here and there. I might go 6 shows without doing it. I might throw 3 in one show. Isn't that evil of me? But hey, it's my thing. It's what I do. At least I'm admitting it. Truth on tap, baby. You're getting the truth here. You're getting the truth here. Okay, now what was that special thing I was going to share with you? You're too dramatic. Your life is a soap opera. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, I'm actually forgetting what it was I was going to tell you that was the secret. It'll come back to me, don't worry. It'll come back to me, but we were talking about drama. Number 5, if you're too dramatic, people aren't going to tell you. They're just going to avoid you, you know? If everything in your life is an emergency, then, like I said, you know, I'm getting older. I want to avoid drama. My younger self could have handled more drama. And the secret I was going to tell you is this. I had to backtrack there in my thoughts. I cannot remember the psychiatrist's name, but it doesn't matter. People would come to this psychiatrist, and he was famous. I don't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Dr. Phil, but it was someone along those. I have a problem with Dr. Phil. I think he's a bit of a bully, and I don't think psychology is the field where you need to be a bully. People that are coming to you are already hurt. It's guaranteed, and you just need to back the fuck up. And yeah, so I don't like his approach, but he is pretty smart. But it wasn't him. It was somebody else. And he said, people come to me all the time asking me how to increase their tolerance for stress. How about you? Does that sound reasonable? You want to increase your tolerance for stress so you can take a lot more, right? I'm telling you that's wrong. He's telling you that's wrong. You want to decrease your tolerance for stress. Well, my God, Kevin, if I do that, I'll snap every day. No, you won't. Consider it a container. You're carrying around a suitcase every day. How much stress can you fit in that suitcase? A lot. It's a heavy load. I'm telling you, carry it in your wallet. Yeah, maybe you should be stressed about a couple of things. That keeps it on your mind. Everything else, sorry, it doesn't fit in the wallet. It's out. It's out. I cannot worry about that today. You want to decrease your tolerance to stress, meaning that when the stress begins to mount up from multiple angles, you purposely and actively begin to push it out of your mind. You're saying, I don't have room for all these things. That's not going to happen. I will not go in like a goddamn octopus with every tentacle wrapped around a problem. Forget that. Forget that. I've got 6 hands I need to function with. I'll use my other 2 to wrap around a couple of problems. Reduce your capacity for stress so that it falls away once you overflow. You increase your capacity, you're asking for trouble. These are the people that are dead by the age of 60 from a heart attack. Reduce your capacity for stress. You're going to find more happiness like that. I swear to God you will. You're just deciding that you will not worry about more than 1 or 2 things at a time. And ideally, you won't worry about anything, because all you can do is act or not act. That's all you can do. Worrying achieves nothing. You know, all it can do is remind you that you need to take action. That's one good thing worrying can do. The rest of it sucks. Reduce your capacity to handle stress. That is a secret. It is a trick that will bring you happiness and will change your life. You start doing it tomorrow. You got to catch yourself doing it. You got to catch yourself doing it. Worrying about 6 things and go, nope, nope, nope. 2 at a time. 2 at a time is all I will accept. Let's see what Kim has to say about this. Kevin, to my knowledge, has never interrupted someone. I try not to, Kim. I do it on accident sometimes. But I've never done it in a way that said, I need to finish what I have to say. I need to start what I have to say before you finish what you have to say. It allows a pause to collect thoughts or ponder an idea before you form a response. That's smart. Splinters or planks. And don't use damn guilt on people to get them involved in your drama. Oh, I know somebody very close to me, Kim, and this person loves to put me on guilt trips. I've learned to just not feel guilty. This person wants me to call more often. I don't. I hate talking on the phone. And this person wants me to feel guilty. And I just won't. I refuse to. Okay, I feel terrible. No, I don't. I don't like talking on the phone. I tell this person, come and visit. I don't know. And I wish people would stop posting that BS about God will only give you what you can handle. Bullshit. Look at Job. He broke down several times. I don't like people that claim that they understand what an invisible, all-powerful deity is doing, because that's very contradictory in nature. Nobody's wise enough to understand God, but we know that He only gives you as much as you can handle. He would never give you an ounce more. That's people making up shit to make themselves feel better. That's all. For those of you that believe in God and the idea of God helps you through, I salute you, and I hope that your religion doesn't cause you to belittle or berate other people who don't believe in your invisible dude. I was watching a video the other day about the times before the Crusades all the way up to now, and the number of Muslim aggressions since then. And you hear a lot about the Crusades and how guilty and terrible the Christians feel about it. But let me assure you that if you look at every battle in history that was initiated by the Muslims against other religions, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked. Damn near 500 million people murdered because they refused to believe in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. Convert or die. That was the option they were given. So you need to know your history. There's some sort of glazing over. I mean, you hear him talk about how in the Middle East during the Middle Ages there was this massive preservation of knowledge. The Muslims burned or destroyed 90% of every piece of information they came into contact with that was outside the Quran. So the fact that they kept 10% makes them heroic? Man, you got to know your history, because it's just not accurate if you're just believing this Christopher Columbus discovered America bullshit. You got to get into the books. If you want to live an illusion, I can't help you. You probably won't enjoy this show, because this show will be very uncomfortable to somebody who wants to live that Disney life. But if you want to understand reality, even if you choose to ignore it, which I welcome you to do, if it makes you happy to ignore it, ignore the shit out of it. But just know what's there. Just know what's there. That's going to make you a mentally healthy person. It's going to make you more of a stand-up person. It's going to make you do better on Jeopardy. Just know what's really there. Then you can decide if you want to go live in Pee-wee's Playhouse. That's fine. That's fine with me. I don't blame you. Because living right beside the river of truth all the time is a stinky place to live. I walk away from it right after the show's over. In fact, I usually walk away from it after the halfway point of the show. Start fucking around. Which is coming. That's exactly what it is, Kim says. I think you're talking about where I said people just trying to make themselves feel better. That's a shame. And it's a shame that we will not embrace true history and understand the many fallacies in history written, of course, by the conquerors. It's a sad thing. We live in an age now. The historian is in heaven, because we're finding so many pieces of information and literature that we can cross-reference. We are building some very accurate pictures of what happened in the past. And, it's CSI thinking with Indiana Jones parts is what it is. And they're putting it together. They're putting it together so that we're getting an understanding of our past like we've never had before. And if you don't understand your past, you cannot have a decent grasp on what's coming in the future, because history does repeat itself, especially when it comes to human behavior. We are very predictable, folks. We're not only predictable as individuals, we're predictable as masses. Let me go ahead and finish this list, and I'll just breeze through the last few, and then we'll probably take a break and enter the second half of the show so that we can go freestyle and see what Kim wants to talk about. Like I said, if you're too dramatic, people aren't going to tell you. They're just going to avoid you. All right. Number 6, you're gossipy. This is something I also avoid. I'm going to go ahead and read what they say because it's short. People may start avoiding you like the plague if it gets out that you are gossipy. Yeah, gossip is fun and exciting, and almost everybody does partake in gossip. But if you're known as a gossip, I guess that's also a noun, people will be hesitant to tell you things. Gossip can sometimes be harmless, but it can be malicious and can hurt people. Therefore, even if you have information about someone or something, try either confronting the person with it or keeping your mouth shut. Gossip will spread. It is inevitable. Just make sure you're not the one doing it. You guys know, Kim, you know, I don't participate in gossip. What I've learned is that many times, if I go ahead and say, okay, I've heard this story, it does ring true based on my gut feeling, I think I'm going to share it as fact. Many times, probably 7 out of 10, I'm wrong. I'd rather just say I don't know than to be wrong. Because then you lose all your credibility when you go to state a fact. If you have you're notoriously known for just putting out some shit you heard. So, yeah, I avoid the gossip. And now I know, like when we gather in Old House Woods, lots of people talk about the gossip. It's a small town. There's not a lot going on. It's almost all there is to talk about, Not a lot of events happening. Not a lot of new ideas circulating in town. So what do you have? You have people. Big cities, you have events and you have, new ideas. You have TED Talks. You have theater, opera, art. Not in a small town. So I understand it, but this is an area, one of the very few areas in life where I am proud of myself. I avoid the gossip. If you tell me that so-and-so said so-and-so, it's already lost credibility in my head. Already. Just from a legal standpoint, you know what hearsay is in court. So many people think they know what that is, but they don't. What it means is that the person who said it, whether or not that was to a third party or not, is not present to testify as to whether or not they said it. So if I've got you up on the witness stand and you say, Jack told me that Kevin is guilty, and Jack's in the back of the courtroom, that's fine. We can admit it. Because we can call Jack up and say, did Kim just tell the truth? But if Jack's not there, then what you're saying is hearsay. And we can't check it. Therefore, it gets thrown out. So you have to understand what hearsay is. And like you would in a court of law, avoid it. Just avoid it. Just say, if you heard something that you think could honestly affect someone's safety or well-being, yeah, you probably want to share it, even if it's a rumor. But otherwise, wait till you get your facts. Then you'll be known as a reliable source of information. And when you talk, people will listen. That's my advice on that one. 7, you're always miserable. Oh my God, do you know some of these people? I do. The good thing is that none of them are listening to this because I don't hang out with them at all. Now I'm going to go ahead and read this one to you too. And keep in mind, this is 8 things about yourself that if they're true, people are not going to tell you about. So you need to discover them. And this is number 7. You're always miserable. Ever heard the expression misery loves company? Well, if you're a miserable person, you may be exuding your misery onto other people who may start feeling more and more hesitant to be around you. Nobody likes to be around someone who's always negative and miserable. Misery brings other people down, and when you're constantly miserable, you tend to overlook the good and positive things in life. If you think you're always unhappy, you need to push hard to get out of your funk. Get out, socialize, do things that make you happy so that you won't be a miserable person that no one wants to hang out with. I couldn't agree with this more. I would argue, though, that toward the end, it's not always easy to just get out of your funk. You could be having a major depressive episode where you can barely crawl out of bed. That's a real condition. You may have just been in a car wreck where you're wearing a body cast. So not all these things can apply. However, if you're just that person who's always miserable, don't expect people to want to be around you. Change that shit. I have always told people that misery is like a contagious cancer. You cannot be around it for any sustained amount of time and not have it rub off on you. This is why I tell people, get the negative people out. You've got to get them out. You can't say, well, I'll leave them in and ignore them. No, you won't. No, you won't. You're going to feel their attitude. It rubs off on you. You can't help but, unless you're a psychopath, you can't help but feel empathy. And when you feel empathy, you feel what others feel. I'm not saying that the people around me have to be Mary Poppins. As I've said, all I need them to be is neutral or positive. And they can sometimes be negative, but they can't always be negative. I've already kicked those people out of my life. They're gone. They're long gone. And I'll tell you this, since I've done that, I am closer to total happiness than I've ever been. And I got nothing. I don't have money to throw around. I ride a $700 Chinese scooter. Excuse me. I've got medical injuries out the fucking wazoo that have not been resolved. Okay? But what I've done is I've gotten the negative people out. And what's left when you get them out is a little bit of sunlight. A nice stream. The wind's blowing a bit. The cats are meowing. They're happy. Things look better. Things smell better when you get that nasty fog of a negative person away and out of your social circles. Get them out. There's no friendly way to do this. If you can design one, go ahead. But you have to get them out. Out. Good luck with that. If you ever want happiness, you will get them out. If you don't, you will not have happiness. I guarantee it. And number 8 is you have no tact. People aren't going to tell you this. You may be blunt, and while that is a good thing, it can be hurtful and may cause you to lose friends. I agree with this. I think you need to have a little class when you're telling people stuff. If you're just going to come out and say, I think you're a fucking asshole. Well, wait a minute. Have you bothered to try to understand that person and where they're coming from? Remember, they grew up in a different house than you. They grew up with different parents than you. They may have gone to a different school than you, had different mentors, read different books than you. So have you tried to get into their mind a little bit and seen their point of view? Or do you just know that they're not like you and therefore they must be defective? Understanding. Helen Keller said it is the best product of an education, tolerance. So have some tact. Understand the golden rule. If you wouldn't want somebody coming up to you and saying, I think you're an ugly motherfucker, you probably ought not say it to them. You know. Some people may be sensitive while others may not be, but however you approach someone, you have to make sure you do it tactfully. Tact can save you from being seen as a mean person and can make sure you don't hurt somebody's feelings. Now keep in mind, you may hurt someone's feelings and they may admire you for it. They may say, wow, he's really brave. They teach this in how to pick up chicks courses. Yeah, they're real popular now. They teach this, find a flaw about her and then compliment the flaw. It's a very tricky thing. Like if she's got large teeth, you might say something like, oh my gosh, I love your teeth. I love big teeth. So what you've done is you've offended her, but told her that you liked that thing that stood out. So what you're saying is, I know what beautiful is, and I've picked out something on you that isn't traditionally seen as beautiful. In other words, you've got a flaw, but I like it. So you got to watch out for this stuff. Yeah, I'm telling on everybody. It's truth on tap. Nobody gets away with shit here. Forget about that shit. Nah, nobody gets away with shit here. We tell the truth. All right, so that'll be it for the 8 things that people are not going to tell you. And I'm just going to read the topics in case you missed the first ones. It is, you're negative. People won't tell you that. You don't listen. People are going to not tell you that. They're just going to avoid you. You talk too much about yourself. You have attitude problems. You're too dramatic. You're gossipy. You're always miserable. Or you have no tact. Okay? And this comes from, I believe, a book. I may be wrong, but I believe this is from a book that is something like 57 things about people. You'll have to check it out. I put the link on the Facebook page. Let's see what Kim has to say in chat. Don't be a Debbie Downer, that's right. Kim, I haven't heard what you had to say about possibly doing that thing. Are you still thinking about that? When does gossip and passing along helpful info? Yeah, it's very hard. If the information you're getting is historically inaccurate, I would stop trusting that source altogether. Honestly, stay in the middle of the road. Yep. Oh, so you're doing that thing? Okay. Hey, Debbie, what's up? Shit, you just caught me. We're getting ready to go here. We may actually broadcast another show, though, remotely. So thanks for stopping by, Debbie. Kim, I don't know if you've met Debbie. She's pretty much the most popular hostess on Spreaker and on Blog Talk Radio. And she's the one that's having the debate, I believe, on the 16th between her group and Goofy Bones' group. Yeah, we were just leaving, but it's a good episode, I think, Debbie, and it's 8 things people won't tell you about yourself is what we focused on that may be negative, but they won't tell you, so you might not have known. And I think it's really interesting. It's something I had never really thought about before, and it was really put into perspective by this author that I was reading from. So I think it's worth your time if you want to check it out. Yeah, and if you decide you don't want to listen to the show, I've put a link to the 8 things where you can just skim through them on the Facebook page for the show, Truth on Tap on Facebook. So, yeah, Kim, do you want to you want to meet, say, at 1:30? People tell you everything wrong with you. Well, that's because you're popular and you have, you're gonna have your following and your critics in equal numbers, because people hate people that succeed. That's easy to do. Oh, and they also like to use you as a stepping stone if they can. Let me tear her down, and that'll elevate me. And it's a sad part of the human condition. I believe in helping all show hosts. The one type of show host I cannot help is the racist or the sexist, or the person who's just full of hate. I can't. I honestly do discriminate against them, and I tell them up front. Everybody else, I'll launch your show, I'll post it on my page, I'll do commercials for it. I think we can help each other. There's enough room for everybody in radio. Word you need to hear right now? That's good. Okay, till 1:30, so you won't be able to come down there till about 2. Are you sure you still want to do that, Kim? If you do, then I'll just count on 2 o'clock. And we'll probably do another show from down there. We'll talk about, we'll sort of continue the topic, talking about personality traits, and not just that, but behaviors that people aren't comfortable talking about. You know, I already talked about how you might have a molestation case in your past you don't want to talk about. These are painful memories. Maybe you've got a parent that left, or a parent that was physically abusive in some way. These are things nobody wants to talk about. I get that. Okay, there's no reason for me to dig those up. But what about the other things that people never mention that are going through your mind? Those are the interesting things to me. Okay, you're out for tonight. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I wanted to too. We wanted to go hunt for ghosts, and we live very close here to a place, Debbie, called Old House Woods in Matthews, Virginia. I don't know if you've heard any of my episodes from there, but it is rated by one website as the 4th most haunted woods in America. And there are many phenomena back there, and some of them have made it into the books. You can find the books on the internet. And from headless dogs to floating caskets to witches to British soldiers and skeletons and armor. Crazy stuff back there. Very scary. Yeah, me too. And we haven't figured out what ghosts are yet. Oh, you've lived in a haunted house. Debbie, I would love to hear what it is you see there, if you've seen anything. And whether or not you've gotten any EVPs there. Any convincing ones. We're considering, yeah, we could exchange stories. We've spent about 1,100 hours back in Old House Woods, and of that time, we've only gotten 3 major events, and for a total consume time of about 45 minutes. So the hit rate is not that good, but at least we got something. I know some demons personally. I have EVP that would make your teeth itch. You don't have that posted on the internet anywhere, do you? We've got some of ours on YouTube. You can look up Old House Woods EVP, and you'll hear some of ours. They're very few, though. Like, one of them says something like, Amy, why me? And then another one says, I eat the children, join me. And that's hundreds of hours of recording to get those things. And I do have a very specific one when we went down to a place called Roswell that just says, as clean as day, get out. It whispers, get out. And it was weird because it was the visitor center we were going into. It wasn't like we were near one of the old houses. Yours says Darla all the time. David Roundtree. Wow. Now, Debbie, how the hell can you live in a house where you've got a ghost that is speaking your name and still sleep at night? I can't do that. No. If something says to me, and I know it's a ghost and not some kind of prank, Kevin, get out. It may take me a couple days because I'm not scared of anything. But I also don't know how to fight what I can't see. So we packing up. Oh, you did move. Okay. Yeah. This reminds me of Eddie Murphy. You know, white people see some blood in the toilet. We need to investigate that. Black people see, get out. We gone. That's it. Out the door before the sentence is finished. Good Lord. Are you doing a show anytime soon, Debbie, by any chance? I like to hear some of those EVPs. I listen to them on YouTube once in a while. You can always tell the fake ones, or the ones where someone was just whispering. That's why when we're back in the woods, we tell everybody, don't whisper. Because if we hear whispering, we want to be able to assume that that is an EVP, because that most typically is what our EVPs consist of. Therefore, it helps if nobody whispers so that we can isolate those more easily. Yeah. I have a Class A EVP that clearly says you don't want to run us out of this house. Jeez Louise. I would like to hear that one. The longer the sentence, as long as it is coherent, the more convincing it is to me. Because random sounds from you having on a nylon jacket and moving your arms can often sound like a few words. But when you get 8 and 10 words that come in order, you're getting into the real stuff there. And it's just undeniable. Yeah, me too, Kim. It freaks you out, but you also get a bit of systematic desensitization to it. You know, you start to, as you hear more and more of these EVPs, especially when you can pick the false ones out from the possible real ones, you begin to realize there's something going on, but I still don't think we've adequately defined necessarily what ghosts are. We still don't know for sure if they're not just some sort of accidental crossover between dimensions rather than necessarily a spirit from an afterlife. I don't know. My best one is, I know Boomer is your dog. Do you really have a dog named Boomer? Because that's some shit right there. Our dog Boomer was barking. Holy shit. Gosh. Do you use any advanced equipment, Debbie? I'm curious. We were trying to think of maybe getting some thermals or an Ovilus, and lately we've just been using regular cameras, and Kim's got a nice DSLR, but we haven't really put it to the test for night photography yet. And yeah, I've heard of David Roundtree. Yeah. He and his wife also work on EVPs, I believe, if I remember right. Yeah, we'd like to get into thermal imaging, get a little bit of infrared stuff going, maybe some EMF / EMP pumps to put some extra energy out there. Because what's funny is the one night that Kim and I were down in Old House Woods and finally saw the storm lady, the legendary storm lady that shows up on the beach to warn of gales, which really means she just shows up during a storm. It wasn't really storming. It was raining a little. There was lightning up in the sky, but it wasn't like covered with clouds. There were just a few patches of clouds and there was lightning in them. Sure enough, finally, after many, many months of going back there, we see the storm lady standing there. Yeah, I'm just fascinated with the paranormal, but I'm a guy who has no conclusions yet, Debbie. I'm not so sure I believe that whatever these things are from the afterlife. I'm wide open to suggestion on that. I think we need to keep collecting the data. I think we need to tell the scientists, screw you, because all they want is what can be proven and repeatable in a lab. And how many times do you know of a ghost repeating something for you? So screw them. It's going to have to be those of us that are willing to poke around the edges of science that'll figure this stuff out. Yeah. You know, you hear me attack Alex Jones all the time, but about 10% of the conspiracy theories he believes in, I'm down with them. I see the evidence for them. 33 years. Yeah, David Roundtree is sure that they're from an afterlife. They are spirit entities. I don't know. I just got done reading an 800-page book that Kim knows a guy named Matt. Matt lent it to me, and it was just called Ghosts. And it was ghost stories by this one guy who had just gone around doing these investigations with people. And he'd been doing this since the 60s. This wasn't something new. And the more I saw into it, the more I saw the potential for lies to get attention, or pranks, or confusion, or someone being paranoid. But there were a few cases that were just undeniable, top-notch quality witnesses, top-notch evidence to suggest that something really had happened, and just fascinating stuff. And I'm going, okay, what was this? If this wasn't a ghost in the proverbial sense, coming from an afterlife back to this life, what else could it have been? Is there such a thing as mass hallucination that matches the person next to you? You know, I want to know about all that. Because I think paranormal is oftentimes just the supernormal, and it will become the normal once we understand it. But to not look at it like scientists do today and say, that doesn't exist, you can't prove it to me in a laboratory. Well, that's incredibly narrow-minded in my view, because you're telling me that all these people out here that have had paranormal experiences are not having them. And I have a problem with that, because even if it's only in their head, there's a mental condition we need to identify. So it is very real, and we need to figure out exactly what's going on. Hey, Andrew. Gosh, man, you guys always come in late and then I have to go. My voice goes after 2 hours. That's why I'll never have a huge radio show. I got 2 hours. So, Andrew always comes in right at the end of the show. Debbie, are you doing a show anytime soon? I mean, it's only out your way, it's probably about 10:30 now. Or does anybody else know of a show that's still going on we could chat in? Any good ones live right now? Thanks for stopping by, though, Andrew. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, man. I wish I did my shows longer. I would do 3 hours if I could, but I just can't. My voice is already killing me. We'll see what's going on with another show here, and maybe I'll follow y'all into there. I tried to do it the other night, but we couldn't find a show that was airing. So we'll see what you guys find there. For the rest of you guys, what we were talking about is truths that people were uncomfortable talking about. Now, because I've kind of cut the topic a little shorter than I wanted to, I'm going to share a couple of links with you. I've already talked to you about the Johari window, which is something you need to understand if you want to understand how you're viewed by others and how you view yourself and the difference between those two realities. 55 interesting facts about the human mind. I think this is something you should read. Now, I don't have sources for every one of these claims, but you can look them up by simply Googling the claim. So they look legit to me, but I cannot put my total stamp of approval on them because I don't have the sources listed. So you'll just have to take it with a grain of salt. I'll put that also on the announcement for the show on the Facebook page. It'll help you understand the whole show a little bit deeper. And it's factsrandomhistory.com, human mind facts, 55 interesting facts about the human mind. Things people are afraid to talk about. I'm going to avoid that one because it's a personal blog, and I find that those can be heavily biased in one direction or another. But it may be interesting to you, so you'll just have to Google things people are afraid to talk about. Johari window, 55 interesting facts, 47 mind-blowing psychological facts you should know about yourself. I may have already shared this one, but I'm going to share it again. And this comes from the book 100 Things You Should Know About Yourself. I think I shared this about 3 episodes ago. And these were also legit and had sources. And since I'm operating by candlelight because my light bulb blew and we're out of light bulbs, I can't see my keyboard, which makes things quite a bit of a challenge. All right, let's see what you guys have to say in chat. So we're getting ready to go. I'd love to play some EVPs for you. I do a show. If I do a show to play them and you miss it live, be sure to check the archive. I will see how many I can pull together. Okay, Debbie, we would love to hear those. Some of them are on my laptop. Are you thinking about doing a show right now, or do you have to organize this and do it tomorrow or the next day or something? Because if you can do them, if you're going to do them tonight, let me know and I'll come and listen. And then I'll just participate in chat or whatever. Yeah, Old House Woods has layers of activity. It's not just one era. It's not just one type of... the 3 major entities I saw, none of them looked like the other one. One was like a lady standing there. One was like 2 black triangles flying in front of me. I have no idea what it was. Okay, so she is going to do it now. And then the third one looked like the Predator. In the movie The Predator, when he had his camouflage on, it was just the outline of a woman that barely disturbed the background of a house. And she floated very slowly for about 5 minutes from the edge of the house to the woods. And one thing I got the impression of in all 3 of these sightings was that they had no idea we were there. And this is something that got me thinking, maybe we're not dealing with afterlife, at least not in these cases. We could be dealing with residual energies, we could be dealing with interdimensional accidents, we could be dealing with something we have not yet identified. But maybe these particular ones we saw weren't from the afterlife. I don't know. I have a question mark in my mind about that. She's going to play it on her show now. I think she's putting something together right now, Andrew. As far as us, yes, we did post some links on, and I posted the recordings up on YouTube. So all you have to do is search for Old House Woods EVP. Old House Woods EVP, and you'll find some of our videos up there that have the EVPs in them. You should find at least 3. Demons, they love to play with us. That's one thing I won't mess with, man. I won't mess with Ouija boards and demons and but if you're going to put that together, Debbie, I'm going to take a quick break. Are you going to like show your scheduled show and then we can come in and listen and do it that way? Like what time do you plan on airing it? We'll see. She's got to pull her sound files together and stuff, I'm sure. I don't want to rush her. But this is kind of exciting because for one thing, I didn't even know that you were into that kind of stuff either, and I seek understanding in everything, and that includes the paranormal. And 10, okay, you guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a break then. Hopefully, Andrew, you'll come and join us. Kim and I are going to go over to Debbie's show and listen to her EVPs, and maybe we'll, talk about paranormal, whatever she wants to do with her show, And for the rest of you guys, I hope you also will join us over at Debbie's show. Debbie Daly, that's D-A-L-Y. Very easy to find on Blog Talk Radio or Spreaker or iHeart. She be all over the interwebs. So check her out. Kim, you'll be happy to know she's a Texan, where you were born. And for the rest of you guys, though, I think I'm gonna kick in, because I didn't play it before, Advanced Bass Camp. It's kind of a special song to me, and I don't know why yet. But it is, and I'm going to play it. And that's going to be the end of this show. That is that, and here goes this.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Well, we're at Advanced Base Camp now. The elevation up here is about 18,500 feet, maybe a little bit more. My altimeter reads 5,600 meters. So that puts us above really any peak in the continental United States outside of Alaska. It was quite a surprise to get here and see Advanced Base Camp.
Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
Ladies and gents, this is Kevin Kierstead, host of Truth on Tap and Caps on Tap. I hope you're enjoying the show. Truth on Tap is focused on bringing you absolute truth about everything from mainstream media to comedy, from psychology to the paranormal. This show keeps it real, not the fake kind of real, the real kind of real. That same spirit also covers our Caps on Tap show about the Washington Capitals. Caps on Tap shows air only after Capitals wins at this time. Please come like our Facebook page and join the conversation at facebook.com/Truth on Tap show. Truth on Tap has been picked up and promoted by iHeartRadio, the internet audio mega monster, so shows are available there as well as on Spreaker and a limited selection on iTunes. To get in on a show's chat, you can chat from the Facebook page I mentioned or go to www.spreaker.com/user/truth-on-tap and look for the live episode or call in at 910-NO-LYING. That's 910-665-9464. Thanks again for checking out Truth on Tap and Caps on Tap.